Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you're curious about and, well, really unpack them to find the key knowledge. Saves you time, gets you informed.
Exactly.
And today, we're focusing on just one source, the 5K Runner's review of the brand new Wahoo Bolt 3. This dropped Tuesday, May 6th, 2025.
Right. And our listener, uh, they really want the lowdown on this cycling computer. You know, what's new? Is it any good? The pros, the cons, the whole picture.
Makes sense. The cycling tech moves fast.
It does. And the 5K runner, they have a good perspective. Focus on performance riders, sure, but they keep the sort of average cyclist in mind too.
Okay, so mission accepted. Let's dissect this review, figure out the Wahoo Bolt 3. First up, who is this thing actually for?
Well, straight away, the reviewer frames it as a tool for precision. Think racers, performance junkies, people who really care about the data.
Less about just ambling along and looking at the view, more about hitting numbers.
Pretty much. It's built for that data-driven improvement, though it obviously still does navigation and does it well.
Got it. And the quick version, the TLDR, if you like. What's the reviewer's snapshot verdict?
Simple enough. Great choice if it's your first serious bike computer. But if you already have a Wahoo LMNT, probably not a necessary upgrade. Unless your current battery is, on its last legs. That's the main caveat.
Okay, helpful baseline. Now the review gets into percentage scores. How did the Bolt 3 stack up?
Impressively, actually. Got 95% for apparent accuracy, same for build quality and design. 90% for features, that includes the app.
And compatibility.
95% for openness and compatibility, too. Price was a bit lower, 85%. But overall, a solid 92%.
92. Wow.
Yeah, the reviewer sums it up as highly usable and feature-packed.
That score suggests it's more than just a fresh coat of paint, right? The review mentioned big changes under the hood.
Absolutely. That's a key point. It looks and feels familiar, which is good for existing Wahoo users, but internally, it's been, quote, reimagined and transformed.
So a ground-up rebuild, essentially.
Seems like it. New hardware, new ecosystem behind it, even if the day-to-day use feels consistent.
That familiarity is definitely a plus. Okay, let's talk interface, the screen, the maps, what's changed that you'd actually notice.
The reviewer highlights faster map zooming and smoother scrolling. Sounds small, but makes a difference when you're adjusting things on the move.
Mm-hmm.
The display itself is apparently more capable, makes Wahoo's maps look better, though, interestingly, the reviewer actually likes the more muted transflective display.
Why is that?
Great in bright sun. It might not pop like some other screens, but for pure readability outdoors, it's top-notch. That's the trade-off.
Practicality over pizzazz. Makes sense for a performance tool. Any new map features for navigation geeks?
Oh yeah, big one is selectable map layers. You can now toggle straight names, summit info like hills, Strava segments, points of interest, custom waypoints.
Are on the map?
Are on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Super useful for serious navigation. The reviewer does note the bigger Roam 3 screen maybe shows it off better, but it's all there on the Bolt 3.
Okay. And Wahoo's known for being user-friendly. Have they improved the on-device controls? Less reliance on the phone app?
That's definitely the direction. The options accessible directly on the Bolt 3 are expanded. You can tweak more things mid-ride without pulling out your phone.
Like what, for example?
The reviewer specifically called out being able to turn off the Summit Hill Climber feature if you find it distracting. Just toggle it off right there on the unit. Nice little touch.
Convenience counts. What about bike profiles? The reviewer sounded underwhelmed, called it meh.
Yeah, the take there was it's very use case dependent. If you're constantly swapping one computer between like 3 different bikes with totally different sensors, then yeah, maybe useful.
But for most people...
For most people using it on 1, maybe 2 bikes with similar sensors, it just adds a step you don't really need. So, meh, seems fair for the average user.
Okay. Aesthetics, how does it look? Any visual tweaks?
Big change. No more LEDs on the front face.
Oh, those little flashing lights.
Yeah. The reviewer thought they looked a bit dated, even if functional, and the Wahoo logo is gone from the front too. It looks cleaner, sleeker, more modern.
Subtle, but maybe appreciated. And the elephant in the room for any bike computer. Battery life. What's the story?
Wahoo claims up to 20 hours. The review testing suggests that's actually pretty realistic.
Really? Often those numbers are optimistic.
Well, the reviewer often got more than 20 hours, especially with the backlight turned off or on a low auto setting.
Okay, that's impressive.
Of course, if you're running navigation, lots of sensors, backlight cranked up, it'll be less. But as a baseline, 20 hours seems achievable, a definite improvement.
Good to know. Right, the review lists a top 10 pros. Let's run through those. Where does this thing really shine?
Okay, number one, that realistic 20-hour battery life we just discussed. Huge plus.
Yep.
2, complete indoor trainer environment control. If you're in the Wahoo ecosystem, kicker, trainer, fan, climate controls everything seamlessly.
That tight integration is a big Wahoo selling point. What's next?
3, great outbound integrations. Strava, Ride with GPS, Training Peaks, loads more. Syncing is super easy.
Essential these days.
4, full rerouting, turn-by-turn with street names, POI routing, and onboard map. Proper navigation, not just following a line. It can figure out new routes if you go off course.
Onboard maps are key. Number 5.
Onboard Digital Elevation Map, DM. Means accurate elevation data, knowing how steep the hills really are. 6, great inbound integrations. Pulling in structured workouts, training plans, Strava Live segments right onto the device.
Makes training easier.
7, highly intuitive interface. That classic Wahoo simplicity. They push complex setup stuff to the app, keeping the on-device experience clean.
Heard that a lot about Wahoo. What are the last 3?
8, supports all external BLE and ANT plus sensors. Basically, any sensor you own, it'll probably connect. 9, sensibly tough Gorilla Glass and easy-to-read color display. Durable and usable.
And number 10.
Excellent visual feedback for navigation and Varrier radar. Plus, live tracking, notifications, route sharing via the app. It's a really solid list.
Definitely covers a lot of ground. But nothing's perfect. What were the downsides? The cons?
Okay, first big one. No third-party app store. Unlike Garmin's Connect IQ, you can't add lots of extra little apps or data fields from other developers.
Less customization potential then.
Exactly. Second, lacks physiology metrics like readiness. No built-in recovery scores or training load analysis like some competitors.
Okay.
Third, lacks wind drain forecast metrics. Some riders like having that weather info on screen. Fourth, no touch screen. Wahoo's sticking with buttons here, which won't suit everyone.
Yeah, the lack of a touchscreen is a deliberate choice, seems like. Any other cons?
You still need your smartphone for bigger changes. Major setup stuff happens in the app. And finally, number 6, the buttons could be better.
Ah, really? I thought Wahoo buttons were usually good.
The main top buttons are apparently great, very tactile, but the side buttons, the ones for zooming and scrolling maps, the reviewer felt they could be a bit more defined, maybe less mushy.
Interesting detail. Let's talk more about that physical aspect. The size, the feel, the usability.
It's compact, similar footprint to a Garmin Edge 540, but a bit longer apparently. 6 buttons total. Top 3 is great. Side 2 could be better. The bottom left one for power options requires a firmer press.
Okay. And usability day-to-day. Someone coming from Garmin, say.
The reviewer mentioned needing to unlearn the Garmin way. There's an adjustment period, but once you get the Wahoo logic, it's presented as much more intuitive.
Easier, fewer clicks.
Yeah, often fewer steps to get things done. And importantly, even without a touchscreen, the reviewer found it way easier to navigate than Garmin's button-only Edge 540. Smoother, more logical.
High praise for the interface design, then. Back to looks, any other aesthetic points? Mounts, colors.
It comes with an Aero-style out-front mount. Nice touch. Wahoo's branding is very subtle, which the reviewer liked. That slightly longer shape helps give a wider map view.
Ah, functional design.
Right. And you can have colored data fields, which are easy to read, but, maybe not super stylish. The reviewer wasn't as keen on the look of the new system menus, though. Found them a bit basic.
And the map look itself. Subjective.
Wholly subjective. Reviewer prefers Wahoo's style, finds Garmin's colors maybe less clear, but you might feel differently.
Okay. Let's shift to the app and the whole Wahoo ecosystem. Big changes there, you mentioned.
Huge changes behind the scenes. They're moving everyone to a single new Wahoo app. It looks familiar, but it's built on a completely new cloud platform.
Why the change?
Seems to be about improving reliability, especially for third-party integrations like Strava syncs, and laying foundations for the future. Maybe even potentially allowing third-party apps or widgets eventually, like Garmin.
Interesting. So a big back-end investment. How does this new Bolt 3 stack up against the old Bolt 2? Is it worth upgrading if you have the Bolt 2?
Probably not, is the short answer.
Yeah.
Unless that battery is failing.
Even with all the new stuff.
Well, the hardware is all new. Dual-frequency GPS, better screen, more colors, longer battery, USB-C, flat base instead of curved.
Sounds like a lot.
It is. And the whole ecosystem is new app. On the device, menus are redesigned. You get bike profiles now, new map layers with street names. But the core writing experience, the reviewer says it feels very similar.
So incremental improvements to the experience, but a foundational shift underneath.
Exactly. Great for new buyers, Good for Wahoo's future, but maybe not a must-buy for happy Bolt 2 owners just yet.
Got it. The review touched on Wahoo's history briefly. What's the overarching story there?
Just that Wahoo's always been about usability, combined with advanced features. From the early RFLKT display right up to this Bolt 3, they've focused on making tech easy to use while keeping the ecosystem fairly open, especially for sensors and data sharing.
Makes sense. Okay, specific features. Hills. How does the Bolt 3 handle climbs with the Summit stuff?
It's got a few ways. There's a color-coded grade data field showing how steep it is right now. There are Summit live segments that pop up with detailed climb profiles.
It's like Climb Pro on Garmin.
Similar idea. But the reviewer actually preferred a different feature. Climbs on map. It overlays little colored chevrons on the map itself, showing the grade of the road ahead. Less intrusive, more integrated.
That does sound useful. What about general mapping and routing? Syncing routes, following them.
Really strong here. Syncs easily with Strava, Komoot, Ride with GPS, Trail Forks. You name it. Saves locations, you can sort routes on the device, so that has some limits. Rerouting is good, turn-by-turn cues are clear.
Any downsides to the mapping?
Main thing is just the screen size. It's compact. For really complex off-road stuff, or if you have trouble seeing small details, a bigger screen like the Roam 3 might be better. But for most road riding, totally sufficient.
Can you simulate routes indoors?
Yep. Especially cool if you have a kicker climb, it'll mimic the gradient.
Yeah.
And you can share routes easily via the app. Reviewer wishes you could zap routes directly between Element devices via Bluetooth, though.
Indoor training, generally, how does it integrate?
Very smoothly. Syncs structured workouts from Training Peaks, Trainer Road, etc. Gives you a dedicated workout page, lets you skip intervals, adjust difficulty, controls your kicked R trainer.
But you have to choose who controls the trainer, right? Bolt or Zwift?
Yeah, you can't have both controlling resistance at the same time. Standard stuff.
Okay. Strava Live segments still a thing? Any improvements?
Still a thing, works well for subscribers, shows your progress against PRs or COMOMs, QMMs. The big improvement is you can now finally disable specific segments on the Bolt itself if you don't want to be bothered by them on a particular ride.
Ah, that's handy. Safety features radar and lights?
Yep, compatible with ANT plus smart lights, and it works with the new Wahoo Trachear radar.
How does that compare to the Garmin Varia?
Similar function detects cars coming up behind you, shows them on the Bolt screen, changes flash patterns. Wahoo's version has a cool safety feature with alternately flashing LEDs on the radar unit itself for extra visibility.
Okay, let's talk accuracy. GPS and battery core stuff. What did the test show?
Testing was extensive, over 30 hours. GPS accuracy, excellent. That new dual-frequency chipset makes a real difference, especially under trees or near buildings. Even slightly better than a non-dual frequency watch in the tests. Hill elevation data was accurate too.
That's crucial. And battery life accuracy. We know the claim, but did the testing back it up consistently?
Mostly yes. The reviewer found the up to 20 hours claim reasonable for normal use. They got between 15 and 25 hours depending on settings, often beating 20 with the backlight off or low.
So it delivers.
It seems so. There were some weird quirks in how battery percentage was reported in the saved ride files, but the real-world duration seems solid. Obviously, things like navigation, lots of sensors, bright backlight will drain it faster. The review even gives tips to exceed 20 hours.
Good. Any nasty bugs or crashes during the review? It was beta software, right?
It was beta. There were some minor visual glitches, and a couple of times it didn't boot up completely first try, requiring a restart sequence. But crucially, no crashes during a ride, which the reviewer noted was better than some recent experiences with Garmin gear.
Stability during a ride is paramount.
Absolutely. Oh, and initial map loading when you first turn it on can take a few seconds for the tiles to draw.
The review had an FAQ section too. Anything important in there we missed?
It mostly reinforces things we've covered. Need the app for initial setup, broad sensor support, lots of customization, auto firmware updates. That 20-hour battery life is real without constant backlight. Strava segments work, waterproof. Good for indoor training, but no direct Swift control. Easy smartphone pairing via QR code. And it really drums home that it's all new hardware and ecosystem, even if the ride feels familiar. Excellent GPS, competitive battery.
Okay. Let's get critical again. What's missing? Where does Wahoo lag behind?
Main point here is the ecosystem compared to Garmin's Connect IQ. Because Wahoo isn't as open to third-party apps, you miss out on integration with some niche sensors, like maybe body position sensors or newer aerodynamic sensors.
Things Garmin might support via CIQ.
Exactly. Also, no native wind or rain forecasts. You need Garmin or Karoo for that built in. And the big one for some, physiology metrics.
Like readiness scores?
Right. No pre-ride readiness, no real-time stamina tracking based on your training load, no perceived effort logging integrated. Things Garmin and others are pushing. Wahoo excels at the core stuff in usability, but these are gaps.
Areas for future growth, perhaps. How does the Bolt 3 sit within Wahoo's own range now? Bolt 3 versus Roam 3 versus the new ACE.
It boils down to screen size, battery life, price, and touchscreen. Bolt 3 is smallest, lightest, cheapest, button only. Roam 3 is midsize, more battery, adds a touchscreen and better speaker. ACE is biggest screen, most battery, adds an airflow sensor.
But core features are similar.
Core software, navigation, sensor support, largely the same across the new generation. The reviewer still prefers Wahoo's buttons to Garmin's button-only 540, making the Bolt 3 the go-to for that smaller size if you don't want a touchscreen.
So it carves out its niche, clearly.
Yeah. Garmin has the massive feature list and ecosystem. Kiru has the slick smartphone-like interface. Wahoo nails usability and core cycling functions.
Okay, let's wrap this section up. What's the final takeaway from the 5K Runners review?
The Bolt 3 and its sibling Roam 3 mark a complete refresh for Wahoo. Everything's new, under the hood, hardware, software platform, cloud leading to better battery, better screens. But crucially, the experience feels reassuringly Wahoo. Simple, intuitive,
And competitive.
very competitive against Garmin and Kiru. The reviewer actually says the Bolt 3 will be their main computer for 2025-26 for most riding, only opting for a bigger screen for really complex navigation. That's a strong endorsement.
Definitely. And if people are convinced, availability and price.
They will know. UK is $299.99. US and Euro price is $329.99 euros. Australia, AU, $549.99.
Yeah.
Don't expect big discounts soon, but maybe bundles later. Links are in the review to buy direct or from retailers like Power Meter City.
All right, so summing up our deep dive based on this review, the Wahoo Bolt 3 looks like a really solid, user-friendly computer, nails the core cycling stuff.
Big improvements in battery, display tech, GPS accuracy, all while keeping that Wahoo ease of use.
But it lacks some of the bells and whistles, the wider ecosystem stuff, the advanced physiology metrics you might find elsewhere.
That's the trade-off. It focuses on doing the essentials extremely well. For many writers, especially those who value simplicity and reliability, the reviewer thinks it's a top contender.
So for you, the listener, it really comes down to your priorities, doesn't it? Usability versus maximum features.
Yeah.
Core cycling data versus deep physiological insights.
Precisely. Which leads to a final thought to leave you with. Wahoo has rebuilt its entire platform here. It's a fresh start. So thinking ahead, what integrations, what features would you most want to see them add to this new foundation? What would make the biggest difference to your cycling?
Something to chew on. Definitely check out the full, detailed review on the 5K Runner site and Wahoo's own info, too. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.